Hello, this is Fiasco Gaming, and we're jumping back into Ultimate General Civil War with the Confederate Normal Let's Play. We just finished the Battle of Winchester, and we're going to go ahead and clean up our army before moving on to the campaign for Gaines's Mill. So before we do anything, we need to figure out how the enemy's growing, what their numbers look like, and if we're doing a good enough job at managing their army force pool. So now we're going to consider, I like to do them in chronological order, but the first thing we need to do is take a look at where we need to ultimately be. So we ultimately need to be able to field 2 corps, and theoretically speaking, we could have 55 individual brigades. It's unlikely we'll get to that number, but that gives us an idea that we need to get there, and we also need to know that we need to have 55 units. Now we're also taking a look at, in the short term, what our next battle is. So the Battle of Cross Keys, we're going to have 10 units we can bring, and we're going to go ahead and just basically build up the force to get to there. The rule is basically don't build up more than you need, essentially. So I'm putting my point into medicine. I still think it's a very useful skill for force management or force protection, and we're going to keep on using rookies. This is part of the big army strategy. We're going to keep using rookies. However, instead of going to the full 2,000 man units, I find the Confederates run into a gun problem, not a manpower problem, as the war progresses. And so I tend to hang out, especially in this mid-war phase, 1,700, 1,800 men, somewhere in there. So some middle ground between the 1,500 and 2,000 man brigade, with the rifled units. So Mississippis are fairly common, but the Enfields are pretty rare. Here we're picking marksmanship. I value accuracy very highly. And it's because, I mean, you see me play the game, I'm always thinking, how can I treat the battlefield like the First World War? And I want that opening volley to be as devastating as possible. We'll notice here as well that efficiency for these units is generally going up across the board. If I'm not mistaken, the 11th and 9th are both going to experience a bit of an efficiency drop as I fill them back out. Now, they're both smoothbore units, and so likely I'm going to take them to the full 2,000 because they're going to be more brawler type units. And 8th Infantry has 1,801 men, and that's just because I misclicked, basically. So that's 1st Division. It's looking pretty good. We're going to fiddle with the officers later to make sure that we're not bringing generals. I want to be leveling as many lieutenants colonel up to general as possible, or majors into lieutenant colonels, that kind of thing. And then, yep. We're going to take the mounted infantry to a nice medium size. A small gain of efficiency. They took some pretty heavy casualties in the last battle. And I think that if I remember correctly, because I played this yesterday, they managed to go through this fight and not experience the same kind of heavy losses. So now I'm kind of figuring out what I want to bring. And I decided to bring my sharpshooters and another infantry unit to slug it out. And this is a battle that, I just take these to the full 2,000 men, and a small gain for the 11th Infantry. They performed very well in the last battle, but a small loss because they experienced heavy casualties in 9th Infantry. But we still haven't lost any traits, and the units are gaining in other stats, so firearms and stamina, so forth and so on. These are useful. Snipers are one of the few instances where I'm going to use veterans, but I'm just using the guns I've already got access to, so I'm not going to buy new Whitworths or what have you. Before Gaines Mill, I have access to a scoped Whitworth for reputation. I might. I really want the 10-pound Parrots, and I really want the scoped Whitworths for the sniper unit, so probably before Gaines's Mill, I'll pick those up. Checking everything out. And now we're going to play with officers. So I don't want to bring Kemper, or I don't want to bring generals in my line units just yet. We are going to get to the point later on in the war where the dream is to put generals in command of my individual brigades. But we're not there yet, and we're still working on generating a large enough officer corps of sufficient rank so as to handle the individual units. So now we're picking officers who are likely to level up in the course of the battle and trying to spread out generals. What I should have done, and I don't think I do, is check to the generals who are currently division commanders and seen if there was a better person to manage them. And then I realized there's a major commanding 2,000 men, and they're taking a efficiency hit in that process. So I change him out for Ivan Force, and then that takes care of the efficiency hit. So we're going to go ahead and save it. We're going to jump into the battle. All right, here's the pre-battle screen. So the Union's going to be attacking us. We have this nice green U shape to fight over. We're bringing 10 units. This is just an overview of the fight. The Federal brigades are going to come from this direction. They don't. They come from basically every direction. And the game's going to give you a chance to get your men killed, essentially, by saying, hey, use these two as your defensive positions. On the far right, it's actually a really great defensive position. They have to come at me via open terrain over a river. Fantastic. In the left, however, that's a terrible defensive position. And so as a result, I'm going to be abandoning that strategy pretty rapidly. We're going to do the something compass trick, and we're going to go ahead and remove all of the units here. I'm actually turning notifications off for Hangouts. I apologize for that, the noise there. Okay, so we've got everybody gone, and now I can pick in the individual units and bring them in kind of where I want them. So looking at who's got what weapons and so forth. All First Division's basically all rifle-armed troops at this point in time. And they're going to be the brunt of my defensive line. So the Lorenzes, which are very, very accurate, I want them on my far, far, far left. And you'll see why when we start deploying our troops. The two smoothbore armed units are going to be on the far right, and they're expected to be more active. They're going to be brawling with Union troops on the right, and then the rest of these guys are going to basically take up defensive positions and square off. And I'm going to intend to create kind of a kill zone on my left. So what's the first rule? Infantry that advances without recon is infantry advancing into an ambush. So dispatch skirmishers to essentially advance to the fighting positions I ultimately want those units to occupy. We're offering our initial orders. I paused the game here. Don't be afraid of the pause button. This is a game that is unforgiving of, basically not paying attention or missing something, and a lot of things happen pretty quickly. So it's an opportunity for you to make sure you pause. A little bit of historical, but imagine they would have sat there surveilling the land the night before, or a map, and come up with a plan. So I'm not that worried about it. So I am posting the units here on this copse of trees. If the Union makes an aggressive push on the right, I have formed heavy infantry in defensive terrain, blocking troops coming over a river, and we have the cavalry taking a work on our far right. Ultimately, my intention is to advance and advance with the smoothbore troops on the far right. I'm going to go ahead and turn the... Advance the smoothbore troops on the far right because the Union puts some artillery in these farmhouses on the bottom right of the screen, and I want to take them. I want to take those positions. If I get the guns, great. If I get the troops, fantastic. But really, I'm mostly concerned about the position because that's the best place the Union has to fight from. So the game wants me to fight by the flag, but that gives the Union a nice covered position to fight from, and they're going to just slug it out, and we're not in a position to fight that kind of a gunfight and have it be profitable. So I'm getting my skirmishers in position. I'm making sure they don't have any forces across the river, and I'm trying to occupy defensive positions basically as early as possible so that if the Union does show up, they're going to be opposed a little bit. But where those skirmishers are lining up is ultimately where I want to get my front line And basically it's going to be a position of having the Union fight in the open and me fight from cover. Now, I'm still going to take a beating. There's a couple of units here that are going to get slogged up over the course of the battle because this is a rough fight. But this is the best place that I see where I can be fighting from. Now, my men are walking. They're not getting tired. Skirmishers are in position. I'm thinking about moving into this central copse of trees here, but I want to wait for the Union to show up, and here they do. Okay, so now they're coming in, and I've got my skirmishers in a place where I can kind of see what's coming. So there's one heavy infantry unit, a couple of stuff on the far left, and I just realized 8th Infantry is out of position. What did I say about things if you don't pay attention? So the skirmishers are doing their job. The skirmishers are keeping the Union busy while the line infantry gets into position and or formed up. And then we have the sharpshooters. It's a great job on those skirmishers. They got, 30 kills for nothing on their end. And now there's a fully formed line infantry unit ready to go, opposing the Union advance. So I want this open field where the Union is right now basically to be the graveyard of a bunch of Union soldiers. It's a perfect killing ground as far as I'm concerned. There's a totally unprotected approach. There's no way they can approach me from cover, and it's just basically, do I get my guys in position early enough? And the early phase of this battle is always the diciest. But at that section of the line is also the most well supported. It's got a 24-pound howitzer unit. It's got the snipers. It's got, and the Confederates are in place, and they're just reaping its toll. And I need to make sure that I'm using good target prioritization to make sure that good targets are being picked, and sometimes the EA doesn't do a great job of that. But now we're in position. Now we're successfully in the woods, and the first howitzer is just going to do just a bang-up job here. And the Union offensive, which could theoretically be very nasty, has already been blunted, and they're really never going to get the kind of momentum they might need on their right to do anything with that. So now, that having been taken care of, at least for the time being, the initiative on that part of the battlefield has been taken from the Union. I'm now feeling confident to the point where I can move the forces on my right into a brawling position with the Union because they've got artillery over there. And I'd like to prevent it from firing at my guys. And I had sent some skirmishers forward, and then there, were some troops that I hadn't seen, so they fell back, and I took some losses there. But it's better than if I'd sent a unit kind of just traipsing into a kill zone. You got to be really careful with sniper skirmishers here. They will walk themselves into harm's way, and they are very expensive to replace. Interestingly, not because of the soldier, but rather because of the weapon system. They are A, rare, and B, after a while, they get pretty elite, and so finding suitable replacements is hard. But yeah, we're a few minutes into the fight, and first howitzer is already at 300 kills, and that number is just going to keep growing. They do a great job here, and it's because this is a wide open, kill field for them to fight in. The units here in the woods, 5th and 6th Infantry, they're going to get just slammed. As much as this is a great place for me to fight from, and as much as this is where I want to be holding the Union because they're out in the open and I'm in cover, it's still, look at those two units. Those two brigades are just massively outnumbered. And there's a general engagement across the line with Confederates largely in cover, actually all in cover, and the Union mostly out in the open. Buford appears to be in a degree of cover, but I don't know how thick it is. And now we're having more maneuver on my right, Union left. And I'm concerned about, looks like Schumer. There's a battery there that I want to displace. If I get lucky, great, I get some guns. If I don't, they're not able to shoot. I'm not terribly worried in this fight about capturing a large number of equipment. I mean, ideally you capture a lot, but this is a fight where they're coming to me, and I'm not terribly motivated to try and wipe them off the map. And I'm actually really happy with the work that the skirmisher units do in this particular engagement. They do a lot of good work. They don't, they're not going to get a lot of kills. These are smoothbore troops with relatively inexperienced. What kills they get are great, but smoothbore skirmishers are excellent for attacking a unit from multiple vectors and then triggering the morale damage more than the morale damage that implies. They don't. If they get kills, it's kind of, I'll take it. It's a nice thing. I'm not going to complain about, but I'm more utilizing them to engage a brigade from multiple directions, and then the morale damage that comes with that. And then if I can get them to the point where they're stutter firing, or routing is fantastic, but a skirmisher unit's not likely to get there. Stutter firing allows my line infantry to just bring the hammer down. So here's the Union. They're trying another push on the my left, their right, into the sort of the kill circle, and it's just kind of going to stumble into A, howitzers, and B, snipers, along with anything else. However, I did mention this, 5th Infantry has taken some crazy losses, and so I'm actually going to swap in and move 2nd over. They've got Enfields, nice long-range, very accurate weapon, and then I'm going to try and see if I can't bring 5th out of line. They've taken a lot of losses, and I want to put them somewhere a little safer. I don't mind them fighting. I don't have an issue with my units fighting, but I do have an issue if I go through a battle and one unit has dealt with more of the fighting than other portions of the force that I brought. I want the engagement to be as even across the brigades here as possible. That's not always, possible tactically, but that is the dream, is to keep it relatively even in terms of what units take losses. And now with 3rd Infantry in that position, the Union press in the center is doomed. It's just a matter of time. If I can support 3rd and get some of those skirmishers out of there, because I'm just as vulnerable to being attacked from multiple directions as the enemy is. So skirmishers can cause me a lot of problems, but regardless, I've got enfilading fire on Federal units in the open. They can't keep that up for very long. And now 1st Mounted Infantry is successfully in the flank of the Union position as well. And at this point in time, the Union's position on the Confederate right / Union left is untenable, and it's simply a question of maneuver. They're under attack from enough different directions that even the fact, though, that everybody's fighting in the woods, and I think they might actually outnumber me in terms of dudes on the ground. There's too many different maneuver elements firing. So here's another thing about paying attention. Notice that 8th Infantry is targeting the artillery behind it, and they're not shooting as a result. So I've just been eating casualties for no reason. So, thank goodness I haven't taken an officer, he said, too early. Yep, great. Okay, so the officer in 8th is down, and normally my intention then is to merge the brigade and let the brigade commander take care of the unit, but given its kind of extreme flank position, I don't know if I can get anybody over there. And then 2nd and 9th skirmishers were intended to keep the Union busy in the middle, but I'm actually not. They may be kind of overextended. There's something to be said about playing aggressive, but there's also danger in playing too aggressively. That said, the Union force on my right is, I think doomed. It may not be completely destroyed. They may be able to escape or outmaneuver it, but the individual, the units are outmaneuvered at this point. And to that effect, I'm actually going to go ahead and try and get them out of that cops down in the middle of their Colts unit. And so now we're going to go ahead and push 5 and 2 up in an attempt to basically deny the middle to the Union. So there's a lot of artillery there that I'd like to have some shots at, and I would like as well, if possible, to that's great. There's some shots into the artillery. I'd like to capture some guns if possible, or capture ideally some supply wagons. Spoiler alert, I don't think that I end up doing it. See, here we have that again, where they sort of route through your unit, and that's really bad because... So take a look at 5th and 2nd really quick. 5th is getting some flank shots. It's not great, but Clouseau, his unit is so damaged at this point that it can't meaningfully kind of hurt them. The Union right is falling apart. These units are going to start routing. I mean, not right away, but by the end of the battle, they do break to the point of shattering because they're boxed into just a death circle. So Cultus here is routing towards my objective, and that's problematic because I can't ignore them, obviously. And theoretically, the unit could rally and then walk over to the flag, and that causes me problems as well. So I'm going to detail skirmishers, and I think also the cavalry, to deal with them, but I don't think I should have to. They shouldn't route deeper into your territory. It is what it is. Welcome to playing games, but it's silly. So those two skirmishers, and I think also the cavalry, will end up kind of keeping them busy for the rest of the fight. There's not a whole lot to show on the bottom of the map, just sort of grinding things out, the pursuit phase. The offensive has been kind of blunted. Interestingly note that the blue and red bar on the top of the screen, the Union's still, numerically speaking, in this fight. The tide has shifted in my favor, but they're still here more than you would initially expect that they would be. I'm really happy with 6 infantry in this fight. They get a great number of kills, and they don't take a lot of losses. I'm overly aggressive with 5th. They still get a lot of kills, but I think 5th kind of gets on the brunt. And then I wasn't paying attention to 8th, who was that unit way on the top of the map with the Lorenzes. And they took a lot of needless losses because they were targeting an artillery unit behind an infantry unit, and that's just me not paying attention. Which is unfortunate. And it looks like the captain who was in charge of the skirmishers has also been wounded, which is a shame. I mean, he's a captain. He's replaceable, but still. Get out of there. I wish there was a way to make them run away. I mean, I get it that it's in Cultus's best interest to keep engaging. But darn, I think I'm going to lose those guys. Those skirmishers down there in the bottom, they're going to rout. Or shatter. Routing you can recover from. Shattering the unit becomes disorganized to the point of not being, a coherent unit. Yeah, okay, they're gone. Which is unfortunate. However, the skirmishers from the 11th Infantry are in great cover. They're in a good position to keep cultists busy, and I'm going to be able to get the... Yeah, so now I realize, like, oh, shit, the flag's in trouble. Pull the cavalry out. I was hunting down those skirmishers. I really wanted to try and wipe them off the board. But the tactical situation kind of demanded the cavalry move down there. And this is particularly why I love carbine cav. I use them as kind of a fire brigade. Wherever there's a problem, they can be there quickly. Then they can dismount and they can fight, as far as I'm concerned, with similar enough efficiency with comparison to heavy infantry. And in a lot of cases, especially like this where they're fighting in a jungle, I think they do better. They fire more often. And if you can get 2 units of carbine cav firing into unit, especially if you can get one on the side, they can get them to the point where they're stutter firing pretty quickly. They can break its morale before the unit is able to... they'll probably get one good volley, and that sucks, but it is what it is. But before they get a second volley and it turns into a proper slug match, they can get that target unit stutter firing and then theoretically route it and then just chase them off the map or chase them into a corner or somewhere. Not great. So I'm a huge fan of carbine cav. Less so melee cav, although I can appreciate the use, especially for like scouting, recon, capturing supply carts. And I think I have mentioned this in other videos. Okay. So mounted infantry and the 11th skirmishers are going to probably be able to hold off cultists. Actually got to hit him from a couple different angles. And the guys are again in cover and enfilading his position. So we got 2 brigades over there kind of keeping that one Union unit busy. The battle here has devolved into a lot of individual small skirmishes. You're going to start seeing, there's a Union unit shattering. I think the artillery is also shattered. So he's in a great position to kind of crossfire. He even can fire from the woods, which is just ideal. Such a huge fan of these units. I can't wait to get the carbine cav a little bit of a more accurate weapon. So the Confederates have access to the what is it called? I think it might be a British, an Enfield carbine maybe. Or maybe it's a Richmond weapon, but the Union doesn't have access to it, unfortunately. Union has access to good carbines as well. They have the Colt 61, I'm pretty sure. But the Confederates have access to a carbine that I'm a huge fan of because it is 300 range. That is the same range as an infantry unit, but it's still a carbine. So you combine that with... I usually have one with that, and then I like to pair it with something that fires quick. So, and I by that point in time, I usually have a whole bunch of these Sharps 55s in stock, and so I pair those things together, the Enfield carbine or whatever the Confederate one is, and then so there's take a look at the Union on the Confederate left. They're just shattering left and right now. I mean, the battle's over. Now it's just clean up. Now it's what can I get. But I pair them together, one long-range carbine and one kind of fast-firing carbine, and those two together make a great wolf pack hunting force. One can keep an enemy engaged at a distance, at the same distance that regular infantry could, and then one's useful for jungle fighting. And that's me being just incredibly over-cocky with second infantry skirmishers, and I'm paying the price for it by eating grape shot in the woods. Cultist still coming to get some more. It's okay. First Dragoons got something for you. Trading very effectively in that round. They took their own losses, obviously, but they're able to put some back out. And now they're almost ready to fire again when, Cultist is still going to be reloading. I see off one infantry brigade, and now we're going to try and get rid of Bayard as well. And I think he ends up surrendering, which is fantastic. I often recommend melee, but there are times when you want to do it where you outnumber them so much and can hit them with multiple units. You can usually get a unit, right then and there. And I like to, when possible, capture as close to exactly 1,000 of the enemy and then kill the rest, because obviously dead soldiers have a chance to drop the musket and whatever else, but captured, for whatever reason, you can only get fresh recruits up to 1,000, and then I don't know if this is for sure. I don't think you get their weapon, which seems counterintuitive to me because they've surrendered. But I don't think you get their weapon. And if a user can confirm that, by all means, please feel free to prove me right or wrong. And the battle's going to end here, I think, basically right away. Usually you get the thing to run kind of a little bit past 0 time, but because I've controlled the flag the entire time, there it is. So, Confederate casualties 2,800, all infantry, no cavalry or artillery. Well, there was some cavalry, I think. Okay, so Captain Henry is wounded and Colonel Stewart is deceased, as is General Thomas Jackson. That is rough. I know I took cavalry casualties. That might not be accurate. Okay, whatever. Captured some weapons. Pretty good stuff. Captured a whole bunch of Sharps carbines. Great. Awesome. Well, hey, that was Cross Keys. Thank you for watching. This is Fiasco. We're going to go ahead and get everything ready in the next video for the next battle in the Gaines's Mill series. And feel free to leave a like, a comment, and let me know what you think of the stream in the next video. And I will talk to you soon. But this is Fiasco signing out.